till att du sitter bekvämt och därmed bara märk. Märk den inre upplevelsen. Och märk hur kroppen känns. Känslorna. Kroppsliga förnimmelser. Bara märk vad som är här. I just remembered that I'm supposed to talk English today. But just notice what is here. And there's nothing you have to do. It's just to be with whatever comes. I know that it's easy to try to hone in on awareness as a thing. Trying to find stillness. But instead of focusing on that, just allow everything to be as it is. Even if you would say, I don't find this optimal, I don't feel at peace, there's too much going on, or whatever your outlook on your experience is. Just allow it to happen. This deep acceptance of the now, of whatever is happening. Doesn't matter if you agree with the specific content of the thoughts or emotions. You just accept that it is happening. Just stay here. Allowing every moment to unfold as it unfolds. You don't have to fix your experience. You just have to find a way to be natural with it. To neither resist it nor control it. Just see how the moment unfolds. The only obstacle here is the belief that you are a person. The belief that you can push the world around. But there is a naturalness to your doing, to your experiencing, that just unfolds. You sense it sometimes. You might call it a name, that you have flow, that is a good day today. But it has nothing to do with good or bad days. Everything is always unfolding as it should be unfolding. And if you enjoy how it unfolds, you might get obsessed with that should continue, and you start clinging to that pleasurable feeling. And if you resist it, if you don't like the way it unfolds, you resist and you suffer. Both these things spring from the same source. Both these things spring from identity. The idea that you are someone that is resisting, or someone that can hold on to a pleasurable moment. The unfolding is just happening. And if you watch your experience, you start to notice this natural movement. It is more subtle than thoughts. It is more subtle than emotions. So it's easy that they shadow it. But this intuitive sense is always there. Your meditation is not taking you anywhere. It's not really a path or a way. It's just this. What are you longing for in your experience, in your life? We long for happiness, contentment. We sense that we are not. So we long. There's nothing wrong with longing. Long for peace. Acknowledge that that is what is happening. but you have to look in the right place. If you look to the external world to complete you, to satisfy you, to satisfy this thirst, it will be a great undertaking and not a very fruitful one. But if you look inward, if you look beyond the superficial, and see what the source of the trying, the source of the one who wants peace. Be aware of that. Notice. You might be very used to defending this idea in your mind of yourself. You have all your stories about who it is and why. But if you look, you find the source. You can open your eyes, stretch your legs out if you need to. What is it that we need in our spiritual search? We're listening to things, some spiritual content, satsangs, reading books. What are we looking for? What is it that what is it that is going to satisfy? Just inside. Look. Because with this sense of dissatisfaction, you can always think that you are looking in the wrong way. Doubt is so easy, so close. Maybe I'm not doing it correctly. Maybe I haven't got the instructions right. And it's really an investigating of your non-understanding. But how is that even possible? When you don't see, how do you know where to look? Maybe I'm completely focused on the wrong thing. Put a lot of emphasis on something that is a very small matter. And you might wonder if you prioritize the right things. All these doubts are there. And they always overshadow what is already here. Because it's much simpler than that. It is that idea itself separates. That idea itself says that you are separate from the thing that you're looking for. And this is just not true. And it's a separation that has to be believed in again and again and again. Because in non-believing, you're already here. Some activity is needed to pull you into something else. Effort is needed for separation, all the time. Upheld effort to separate. And it sounds stupid when we hear it like that, because why would you? And we don't see how we are dependent on the egoic mind. That the I that comes again and again always comes with something. Wants to present something that sounds nice, that is a good idea, or is a truth about you. deep insight about your state. And so many of the things that the mind says, that the egoic mind says, we think that they have some kind of importance. And to give it up feels extremely scary. As soon as you touch that, fear comes. Can you live your life without the center? Do the all the time has to be upheld as someone? And that is a process that happens in most people. Thoughts and the belief of those thoughts. Upholding of something. Of a sense of being someone. And this seems to be the hardest thing to grasp. Because the question that always comes again and again, but what should I do? And it wants to be interpreted only in two ways. That there is something that I should do, but it's not really clear in some way. My teacher is confusing me a little bit about it. Not really want to say it straight. I don't know why. And the other part is there's nothing to do. I don't have to do anything with this. I can just give it up. But both of these are very identified positions. You always believe that you are a doer, either that can do something or that cannot do anything. That everything unfolds naturally as it is doesn't occur in these two choices. They're completely in the relative. They're completely identified choices. So what is left? How far do you have to go to reach it? And we can talk about looking at the experience as it is. But what is that? Is that something very specific that we're looking for? How do you look at the now and allowing it to be as it is? For the mind, it feels like a riddle. I think this is a riddle. I just have to figure it out. But it's not like that. Because if you can find it, you can lose it. Right? If it is something that's, oh, it appeared, I have it, then it can also be lost. So it cannot be a thing like that. And is it a sort of a state? You might say when you sit in meditation sometimes, oh, there it is. But also during the same session, there can come a thought and you buy into the thought and you lose it. So it feels like it's some kind of state that is a bit like coming and going. But is it really? And also if you get very profound experiences during your meditation, you feel spacious and vast and you are nothing. And you're overwhelmed by this experience. And in the next moment, and in the next, what is that experience then? Just a memory. So the mind loves to make everything about the relative. That there is somewhere to go, something to do, something to achieve, something to get. But what we're looking at here is beyond that. All the getting, achieving, trying is happening in that. And the relative just is just happening. And if you have been touched by this silence, by awareness, you're screwed in a way. Because then it's very difficult to let that go. Because you intuitively understand the profoundness of it. Maybe not in every moment. Sometimes the thoughts cloud the judgment, and you might think that there's other things. But as soon as it is there, it is clear. As soon as you have a little opening and there's just spaciousness, it's completely clear. And you can lose yourself in other things, but this will always come back. And maybe you have to do some detours. Look at other things. Detours. Or you get distracted by the egoic mind that says, oh, now I have my chance with this. And you go completely into something. A relationship, a dream you have, something. Suddenly it's spacious and big and you have lots of ideas, so you can just fully commit for a while. Then you try it, and then it comes again. Because your dream didn't satisfy. That's the beauty of everything external, that nothing ever will. Think that people sometimes think that is a curse, but that is a beautiful thing. It is not because of the things, it is because of separation. It's because of identity, it's because of thinking that you are separate from the world. And for a while, if you get exactly what you dream of, you will say, yes, I did it, it's perfect now. But as the relative always changes, and the things that gave you satisfaction starts to fade, you again have to look inward. And it changes your relationship to words. Words just point. It can be important to be exact in words, to be understood. But if you hung up on words, you will always find them contradicting. You read one book or listen to one teacher, says one thing, and it seems like the other teacher says the opposite. But that is not any problem with the teachers. It is a problem with words, how they work, what you refer to. I got a question which is, could you say letting go is similar to relaxing the body? Do we hold on with the body? The body just appears. It's just another thing. But the tension of the body, if it's held onto, is very difficult to stay with what is. So physical relaxation is connected to the state in that sense. But all the holding on to the tension of the body, holding on to the idea of self, all these things comes always from someone having the sense of holding on. So it comes from the thought of separation, to identify with something that is separate. And it can be the body, it can be a thought, whatever. And letting go, it could seem so, letting go of the body seems like, in the relative, seems very like a very drastic thing. But it's very natural to allow the body to be as it is and to happen. I got a follow-up question. Is there a small doing in letting go, or at least a conscious non-doing? When you're aware that you are trying, you have the possibility to let go. Before that, you are unconscious of your trying. And I think that some people think that the awareness of your thoughts and identity is somehow very thought related. There's a lot of talk of being aware of things in a very thought-oriented way. But this being aware is really being aware in the moment that you see something arise. Stay for a while and go. And there can be intellectual awareness of it, but that is not the thing. Because your idea of something is just an idea. Even if that idea is the truth. And the words have a way of moving with things that are true. So the words have potency, but usually we get lost in the interpretation of things instead of looking. See how your thoughts arise. See what triggers behavior. And especially if you have something that is very clear, that comes again and again. Same trigger. Then it's very simple, usually, to see it. And the egoic mind will all the time hand out something that you should buy in order for it to happen.
If we have no attachments and we do not feel half, so we need another one to feel complete. How is it then? Can we fall in love? In Swedish we call it förälskad and bli kär.
Yes. Let's talk about it. It's also very natural to be with other people, to interact and to have relationships and as they happen. And it will all happen very organically. But and all these ideas that we have of romantic love and what it's going to do for us, that is of course a construct that is made in us and that builds up and creates a whole future with this person and all that. It's very easy to look at these things and understand that this is just ideas in time. But the feeling that you are with certain people and the chemistry is very natural and that is what is happening in the moment. But there is a big difference between that and these grand ideas of it, especially what it's going to do for you. That is a very separated Because also if there is freedom in your relationship, all you wanted to do is to spontaneously be love. And you want, the only thing that you want from your partner is for them to be free. If you come from that place. But as soon as it's, yes, I want this, there's too little of this in the relation, this is, then it becomes very separated. It becomes very identified. And many relationships are like that they're very much, very transactional. You get this from me, I got this from you, and in that the playfulness and the naturalness of what a relationship can be and what real intimacy can be completely lost in that, because it's so much focused on I am something and you are something else. Even if you say I need you so much, then it can be very much holding in that. It's this famous saying, if you pick the flower, it withers. But if you let the flower be, it can grow and bloom. And this is very much how our relationship. No one wants to be bossed around. No one wants to be told you're wrong all the time, or whatever it is. And people are so nice if you yet give them the space to be who they are. If you accept them, if you truly love them. As the woman said who came to one of my courses, I don't know what happened to me, but my family has become much nicer. She didn't know how meditation affected her, but she noticed that the people around her became nicer. And that is that only comes from your self-acceptance. And I think that many people that are not have much experience with meditation think that it's something that calms you down, that is very, like, it's very separated. But the more you investigate it, then you start to realize that it has nothing to do with separation at all. It has nothing to do with me. You meditate for the whole. And if you're not so much clinging to this I feeling, you will also be very much in service to others. That is what happens in it. That's very natural. And you don't have to make big choices. You don't have to become someone. You have no idea how it's going to unfold. But you can just let it.
question. It's about, it's kind of like video games, but it's nothing to do with that really. So when I was younger, there was a video game called Street Fighter, which I used to love. And then I started recently watching like a new version where people, bear with me, there's a new version now, and it was 6 or something like this. People playing very high level, and it's incredible to watch. These people are like just amazing. They're like it's sort of divine inspiration. Just you can just see the inspiration coming through in the play. It's amazing to watch. And then I found a real pull to this game, which I thought, is this just ego? Is it just me wanting to be really good at video games? I feel like I'm a bit too old for that. But then this sort of stayed with me, this impulse. It's like, no, you should play this game, really play this game. So I was like, okay. So I spent some money, I bought the game, I bought a special controller to play the game with. And I feel like I feel really drawn to this game. I'm really not sure. It doesn't feel like it's just ego trying to prove itself. It feels like there's something deeper here. There's a message from here. There's something for me there. But it's what you can do. What you can do. So I don't talk so much about the game. The point is, you can play against other people online, and then you can like improve your rank and get better and all this kind of stuff. And all of that, wanting to get better, wanting to improve your rank, be better, to beat the other person, that's obviously ego. That's just obviously some kind of desire to sort of be better. But I feel still very, very drawn to this. I feel like if I lose, I say like, oh, I lost. I feel like I can observe all of this in myself. I can feel the energy building up as I play this game. I'm still really, really drawn to it. It feels like some kind of, there's like, it feels like there's a sort of a learning in applying my understanding of this sort of non-dual understanding with something which is, like in the real world, it's like a sort of a situation which is sort of pushing me. And I sort of feel like there's a lesson there, but I find it's easy to get lost as well in that feeling, and then I have to say, okay, whoa, I need to stop playing this game. I need to go do some yoga or something, calm myself down a bit, or maybe sit and meditate. Like it builds up this energy. It does definitely trigger a sort of physical response in me.
Yes.
I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yes, but I think this is a good example where something that is an area which is considered very non-spiritual. I think martial arts is another area like that. Video games is an area where people automatically assume this has nothing to do with the non-dual meditation. But everything that has that kind of challenge and that people like in that way is because they find a state of flow in it. They find a state of presence in it. They're not thinking about anything. Their best games is just when it's just happening. I don't even know how I did that. This kind of, it just comes, inspiration in the moment. And there are so many things, and usually there's a talk about the arts, music, these kind of things when it comes to creativity and inspiration. But there are so many areas where people are very creative, and now in video games and so many areas where you normally wouldn't think that this has something to do with it. But with that said, and I just want to emphasize that I think it's really good to be in the world like that. I usually say it's good when your dreams are coming true, because then they're gone. So when you think that there is something in something, then investigate that. And not be afraid, and not be too much of a purist, which is just, no, I shouldn't do anything in the world. I should just sit on my meditation pillow, and you just never do anything with all those expressions because of that. Try those. See what happens. But really be aware with it. And see also, oh, this triggers my a lot of separation when it comes to like me being best and this arrogance. But that's a great moment also to look at all those things, because you can also keep yourself in like a monastery environment, and where nothing is ever, you're never exposed to anything, and you're quite peaceful, but also that it can just hide, your arrogance can just hide in a very, oh, but I'm doing so much good stuff and I'm doing this and this, and all those things can be very subtle. But when you sometimes do things that are more extreme, they can just show their face. Oh, I really have this, I get really angry about losing or whatever it is. But there is always a chance of looking at things through that, to be with it. So don't be afraid of, and especially if you have some kind of longing, look into what that is. And but they can also, you can have been doing something for a long time, and then it stops having its value. It loses its value. And you might just keep doing it because you have a social circle where you keep this up or whatever it is. But at some point then it will have lost its magic. The thing that is going to be shown through it is gone. But I think all of these things, to investigate also your relative world, is a good way to look at things, to be curious and to expose yourself to new things. All these things that feel scary and challenges you, all these things, they keep you aware. They keep you not dull. Because the mind that is very comfortable can be very, very dull, and can convince you that we're not moving from here. And then I think that it's from a perspective of a spiritual exploration, that is the worst state to be in. To be in a feeling quite good about everything, never being challenged.
Buddhist monks who were meditating in caves in the Himalayas and came down to villages and started fights with people, so who would beat them up then, and then it was a way of sort of practicing compassion with other people. Somebody who would physically abuse them, that they would use this as a way of practicing compassion towards other people. And I think for myself, I struggle with difficult emotions, what I call, classically difficult emotions, like fear or being unhappy. And I find that my sort of relative life now is pretty good. I feel happy. I'm not especially challenged by anything, which is why then I wanted to ask you about this, because it does feel like something that's sort of difficult. It's sort of,
yes.
sort of difficult energy, and it sort of feels like maybe that is the lesson that I need to.
Yes, and you're usually drawn to certain things that has that, and this deeper longing always want these things that are a bit difficult. It's like the mind, someone says, why are you doing this again? Why? This is terrible. And I know the people who are like, run marathon after marathon, and their body just breaks every time when they have such a hard time. And the mind is just like, what is going on? Why did you sign up again? And that is just because that moment gives this challenge to be really, really present. It pushes your body, or people can long for all these, or your mind. Long for all these things that feel difficult and that you feel challenged in. And I think this is just a longing for the present, for the now in all things. And I think that is a very common thing in spirituality, that you stop all other things, and especially the things that are considered non-spiritual. No, I stopped with that. That is not. I loved martial arts, but it's not really the or whatever it is. But and I think that the idea is like things like video games or martial arts are very violent in themselves, but that is also not true. The violence is in us, in duality. That is the biggest violence that we have, and I think most people are so focused on very, very superficial things that should be this is violence, this is not violence. But if you look deeper, there are much more violence in certain movements that are very much pro something or against another, that they create a lot of and trigger people's fears to feel separate. So I think that is much more violent than two people who are sparring in boxing. That both know exactly what they're doing and they're training and they give each other some punches, but it's complete consent. Okay, let them. But when you spread a message of separation and hate, that is from my point of view, much, much more violent.
I don't know this word in English. And have you heard of Jung personality test, like the MBTI, I think it's called? No.
No.
Okay. Anyways, like in some situation with other people or with other just in some context, I feel uppslukad. Like, how would we say that in English?
Taken by?
Engulfed.
Engulfed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I really, really feel like I'm drowning in that, and to sort of like, I don't know how to say, but
That you lose yourself. Is that what you mean?
no, not really.
No?
Because it feels
Okay.
like when someone comes with something, and it just like, I mean, it's a bit, for me, it feels like violent. Like they're going over my boundary.
Okay.
And
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and maybe sometimes like with impressions too, like loudly, like they speak loudly, or it's a lot of loud sounds and stuff like this. And I feel like I'm not allowed to have boundaries. Like I think I kind of to people please. I compromise my own kind of like authenticity or my own needs.
Yeah.
And I know there's probably a simple answer to this, but I just tend to fall into this
Yes.
kind of situations.
But it is, and it's even for many people it gets even more difficult if you feel like what you react to is not the norm. You are beyond your reaction is too strong for what is considered socially acceptable, or that's the kind of things that you mean. Yes, and also, but. That is your natural reaction. It doesn't change, even though you try to change it. You tried all your life. I know you now, so I know you tried all your life, and you try to fit in and change these things, but this voice doesn't change. You're still getting emotionally overwhelmed. People are talking too loudly, or there's too much impressions, and you get overwhelmed. So you have to deal with that on that level, and there is a natural reaction to that, but you have probably run over that so many times that is not it still happens because you can talk about it, but your reaction is something else that you have learned. And of course it feels difficult because you might be considered very strange if you react to things that almost no one else reacts to. But this is your experience also. So and with this understanding, and when we talk about self-love is not to be nice all the time. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with that your emotions are very, very close. They're on your fingertips. If sorrow comes and you need to cry, you cry. If you need to put your foot down and tell someone harshly that it's enough, you do that. And in the next moment you laugh. Because if it doesn't stick, then these can move. But if you attach a story to them or say that one of them is wrong or it shouldn't be like this, then you can have all these kind of strange relationships with them. And they're not allowed and they're suppressed in ways. And you have to go to therapy for them to come out. But they will also come if you just sit with it. If you start to really allow what is there. And you don't censor yourself and you don't say, I have to be like this to be loved. Then in that statement, there is always separation. The most loving state is always to be as you are. And you also notice when you meet people that accept you as you are, you just feel fine. You don't feel strange or odd or whatever is there otherwise. You just feel okay. So this deep sense of acceptance, it comes from you. And every time you say to yourself that you are wrong and your responses are wrong, you again create separation and fragmentation. And that is what you suffer.
Sometimes it's very clear to me that I'm totally uninterested in this, but I just feel like I can't say that. Maybe I can now.
Yes, but then there is always, and also we always have a also social layer to things, and in certain situations, you just say that okay, I have to go. It is time. And you will always be. There will always happen situations with people that that might be like very uncomfortable or really want something. We just want you to listen, or they have a very harsh view on their relationship to you. And if they absolutely don't stop, you have to tell them harshly, of course. But otherwise, you will just say, okay, I need to go.
I can tell like a small white lie.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's fine.
And one thing I was thinking about was like, but this happened, and sometimes I get very confused and I get paralyzed in this kind of situation.
Yes, but that is because of what you are carrying with you. Because then you get paralyzed because you don't know how to act. But there is a natural action happening. But since you have so many ideas that that is wrong or that is, then you get paralyzed. There is a flow in things. There is something that wants to tell you that you don't have to struggle with. It is not all these things are not personal. This is just the expression that happens through you. That happens with this body and this mind. And all these expressions are all right.
So there can also be times where you come up with white lies?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, but
some people think that no, it's not like that. So
okay. No, of course. Because also it's not always the best to tell people exactly what is going on. And if your mind is very quiet, you notice a lot of things with people, but you can quite rarely tell them. When someone is smiling towards you and say that they're doing very well, and you just feel you can sense their anxiety. You can sense their pressure on their shoulders and their heaviness. But maybe it's just not, you sense that the person has does not want to open up at all about it. It's completely shut. Then there is nothing. There is no point in being super honest with that person, or depending on the situation. But that also happens as it happens. There's not you don't have to have a lot of strategies. You don't have to have a checklist of when I'm going to use this or this. There is a naturalness to everything that is happening. Even to the person who feels like I'm wrong and my behavior is not in a good way, there is still a naturalness that person can still and can be found as a bit quirky or strange or whatever. So what? That is the expression. And it's much more violence for that person to self-censor or try to fit in, or it can be so brutal. And I understand that it's difficult in a culture that really push forward that you should fit in a way, and you should work in this system.
It is so strongly kind of indoctrinated.
Yes, but I think for whatever background you have, you can have all these very, very strong views on what you should be. And parents often have a very strong idea of how their children should follow them, or what is good for them, or what is the best life, because they're just trying to look out from their point of view.
When you say what is the best life, I just thought like, what is their best lie?
But I think that's just parents trying to do their best.
Sometimes also I think it's very, like if someone asks you how you are, and they're not very genuine, or I mean, obviously this is but sometimes I just felt like I wanted to be honest, and but I think it's much better to just say something, so you don't have to continue the
Yes. Because most people are not really interested of your state. They just say it as a phrase to be polite. But they don't want a deep deep analysis of your present state.
But if I say hello, how are you, Marcus, and you don't feel very well, maybe you also should say, yeah, it's okay. Or should you really say, no, it's not good.
This all depends on who is asking and what the situation is, and is there an opening to, and and if you don't feel like a personal need to express, then there's also many things that are not. You don't feel like, why should I?
Yeah.
Why should I be? It's not being honest with it, because who is that state about?
Yeah.
So if that doesn't feel like a something, then what is the whole question? Who is having a good or a bad day? Or so we can talk about this, but it's very much in the relative now,
Yes.
because we just talk about different states and how to relate to different states, and who is relating. The question has to be asked, because otherwise you're just stuck in this. Find out find out who is the one trying to understand, who is the one collecting ideas. Go to this sense of I. Really investigate. Stay with that sense. Where is it located? How far away is it? Is it coming and going? Notice. Then if a thought comes, come again back to it. Look. Who is the thought relating to? What is that sense of I? And again, we get lost in words. We think words like, we hear, stay as truth. Stay with the truth of things. But the truth in the absolute and the truth in the relative are two completely different things. Truth in the relative is very subjective. You can argue for one thing or another. If you're charismatic and have strong arguments with you, you can be the one on the side of being right. But in the absolute, there is nothing like that. In the absolute, everything is. You can say, I don't believe in meditation. I don't think that there is anything dual about the world. And that doesn't matter. You will still have to suffer it. It's more like saying, I don't believe in gravity, I don't believe in any of the natural forces. Yes, you can hold that position, but you will still be affected by gravity. And this is the same with everything in the absolute. If you believe in things that are separate, you will have a sense of separation, and you will suffer that. That is not a point of view. That is not something that is up for discussion, philosophical debate. It's for you to find out, to look. And since there is culture and the subjectivity of the person, then the truth can be explained in many ways. And by two different teachers, it can seem that they say the opposite. But they experience the same truth. It's just culturally how it is interpreted and what the words are and how you say them. And for example, I had a question from a friend of mine who was listening to two teachers, and they used the word personality in two different ways. One said that the personality goes with the ego, and the other one said that the personality always stays even though if the ego goes. So that is just a definition of what the personality is. So these kind of ways we get confused by words. And since we use words that are so commonly used in the relative, like truth, and now it's very if you look on social media and in the news and things, truth is a very hot topic with fake news and whatever. So truth is very, is it really truthful? And this is, and often it's, things are so complex, so you can have subjectivity on either way. So it's just always a play of who has like the best arguments and who wins people over to their truth. It has very little to do what is really there. And I think this kind of truth is also very emphasized, that it is very important to know that kind of truth. And of course, you should keep people accountable and truthful as much as possible, but it's very subjective. You also have to realize how subjective it is. And that is much more important to look at the truth, at the absolute. Because then you will feel free, you will not be interested in indulging in more separation. You will have empathy for people. You will be interested in serving the whole as best as you can with your abilities. It will be the natural way of doing things. And people might critique you and say, you're not doing enough for the world, you're just interested in your little things, or you're like this or like that, and you will feel like, whatever you say. Yes.
So you mentioned personality. I was thinking a little bit about this. I understand that as a person I have my own personality, which is a product of my upbringing and my culture and the time I happen to be born in. But I also feel like if I'm an aspect of Brahman, or however you want to call it, an aspect of the Absolute, then do you think it's correct to say, maybe it's difficult to use these words here, but that I have my own distinct personality?
Yes, I would refer to it as that you have your distinct expression. Because all those things that people lump into personality can be many things that you are identified with, and that might change. But there is an expression that is how you hold yourself, your voice, if you're polite or not, or all these kind of things that are just going to be with your expression. No matter what's behind it, that's gonna be there. And I think that is the part that people sometimes have difficulty also understanding, that if there is no identification, there will still be, like Nisargadatta was he has very close to anger in his personality, and that didn't go. So he used that as a thing. That's just how his expression is. He just has very much pain. So he's just trying to find a way to stay in this room. That's good. So he just stands up and sits down. No, but that is a part of his expression. So he threw oranges at people and shouted at them if they, and and that was just very close to him, and that is still love. Even though we are not so used to those kind of expressions. And if you go to another teacher, he or she is very, very nice all the time and very polite and has a different personality and a different expression, and does everything through that. And that is just the how we are different. And when it comes to that expression, that expression won't go. It change in some ways, because you might not be stuck up on all the identity things, but there is still an expression. And there are teachers like, we talked about this before, I think, with crazy wisdom and like this kind of mad wisdom teachers that also have all these expressions that are very radical and can be seem very not nice. But everything behind it is love. So we can have so many different expressions, and there can be so many facets of how people can be. And that is also the beauty of things, that we have all this, that we're all different, and we have different expressions. Yes.
There are spiritual teachers who say anger is not action, it's reaction. And as such, it should have to do with my childhood things and stuff like that.
Yes, but it all has to do with where is it coming from? What is it an expression of? Because if anger is just an expression of duality, then it's just very simple relative anger. I feel offended, I am angry with you. This kind of... But with Swami, he could be also angry, but you only had to do with people who were not aware. If there were too much blah, 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 too much talking, too much in their egoic mind, he was like, stop. If you're cooking in the kitchen, you have to you have to do the things. And he could seem, everyone got a bit scared, and he could seem a bit angry, but you understood that there was so much love in it. And this is just an expression that is not... So from a dual perspective, that would perhaps not be called anger, but it is an expression of power that is needed in the situation.
But it can look quite similar.
Yes. So, and this is the difficult. This is why you should be with the teacher for some time before you decide to trust that teacher, because the expressions can feel very, very similar to when I first met my teacher. I thought he perhaps was a drunk, because he was walking all the time with like these legs were like really, and then after a while I just understood, oh, that's just how he is, and how his bliss is expressing in his body. And sometimes people had to like hold him, and since I was with him, spent so much time with him, I know for sure that he was not drunk. And also when I started to feel the same in his presence, I understood what it was. But it's not so easy to see all these things. And he was also telling people off sometimes, and he could seem very harsh in those moments, and then very gentle in the next moment. Nothing stuck with him, but all those expressions were there. So it's a good thing you should be skeptical of teachers. I think you should stay with them for a while and see what they're made of before you trust them completely. And sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it's just, the trust is just so strong that you Do you feel like this is? I know 100% this is where I should be. And all those expressions can also be there from the student. Thank you. I'm just showing that, so maybe someone wants to take a screenshot and look at the lyrics. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Thank you.